You're 82 years old, and you spent 38 years as a firefighter. At 2:14 in the morning, the smoke alarm chirps once. Not a real alarm, not smoke, not danger. Just one tiny chirp from a battery that picked the worst possible time to have an opinion. Your eyes open anyway. Fast. Too fast for a man your age. For 1 second you are not in your bedroom. You are in the bunk room at Station 9, waiting for the lights to slam on. Then you remember. You're home. You are retired. Your knees hurt before the rest of you has even joined the conversation. From the hallway, your grandson Leo whispers, "Grandpa?" He is supposed to be asleep on the pull-out couch. Children are always supposed to be asleep right before they become witnesses. You say, "It's just the battery." He appears in the doorway with his blanket around his shoulders. "Is the house on fire?" "No." "Then why are you walking like it is?" You look down. You are already wearing your slippers, both feet, pointed toward the door. Old habits are embarrassing when they still work. You tell him, "Because houses are sneaky." He accepts this because he is 9, and because he has seen enough of you to know better than to argue at 2:14 in the morning. In the garage, you keep spare batteries in a coffee can labeled batteries. Because after 38 years in the fire service, you believe labels are the difference between civilization and chaos. Leo holds the flashlight while you change the battery. Your hands shake a little, not badly, just enough to annoy you. When the alarm clicks back into place, Leo points at the workbench. "Grandpa, why do you keep garbage in a jar?" You know what he means before you turn around. The glass jar sits beside your old radio charger. Inside is a melted red toy fire truck. One wheel gone. Ladder bent. Paint bubbled black on one side. It looks like something that should have been thrown away 30 years ago. You say, "That is not garbage." Leo steps closer. "Then what is it?" You take the jar in both hands. The lid still sticks, even after all this time. "It's the reason I learned to listen." Leo looks at the smoke alarm, then at the jar, then back at you. "That doesn't make sense." You smile. Most important things don't at first. Your name is Frank Donnelly. At Station 9, most people called you Donnelly. Your wife Linda called you Frank, unless you had done something stupid. Then she called you Francis. Nobody at the station ever called you Francis and survived the conversation. You joined the department at 23 because you were young, restless, and not nearly as impressive as you thought. Your father drove a city bus. Your mother worked the front desk at a dentist's office and could make grown men apologize for being late. You were not raised around speeches. You were raised around people who got up, went to work, came home tired, and did it again. So when you became a firefighter, you did not think of it as bravery. You thought of it as a job with better stories and worse sleep. Your first firehouse smelled like wet canvas, diesel, floor wax, onions, and coffee that had lost the will to live. Station 9 was an old brick building with 2 bays and a kitchen table that had survived more arguments than most marriages. There was a dent in the refrigerator door from a frozen turkey. No one agreed on who threw it. Everyone agreed it was not handled correctly. Captain Sal Moretti ran the house. He had silver hair, square hands, and the calmest voice you had ever heard. He could say, "Move," and make it sound like a weather report. He did not give big advice. He gave little sentences that ruined you slowly. Check twice. Close the door behind you. Panic is contagious, so don't start it. You wrote none of this down. You remembered all of it. The first month you tried to look fearless. This was a mistake. Looking fearless mostly makes experienced firefighters want to fix you. The older guys fixed you constantly. They fixed how you packed hose. They fixed how you carried tools. They fixed how you stood in the bay with your thumbs hooked into your belt like you were posing for a calendar nobody asked for. One night, after you dropped a coupling on your foot and pretended it did not hurt, Moretti looked at you and said, "Donnelly, pain gets louder when you lie to it." You said, "I'm fine, Cap," he said. "That's what liars and newlyweds say." You were not sure what that meant. Years later, you understood both halves. The public thinks firefighting is mostly flames. It is not. Flames are the part people point cameras at. The job is doors. Doors that stick. Doors that hide heat. Doors that open into bedrooms, kitchens, stairwells, basements, and lives people did not clean up because they were not expecting strangers. The job is alarms that turn out to be toast. Basements that smell wrong. Cars folded around streetlights. Grandmothers who fall in bathrooms and apologize while you help them stand. Men in bathrobes insisting they are fine while standing beside a stove that strongly disagrees. Kids crying because the lights are too bright. Mothers asking the same question again and again because the answer will not stay inside them yet. You learn that people call 911 when the world stops giving instructions. Sometimes they need water. Sometimes they need tools. Sometimes they need a man in a helmet to lower his voice and make the room smaller. You got good at that part. Not right away. At first, you thought the loudest person was in charge. Then you watched Moretti work. He could walk into a room full of smoke, shouting, sirens, neighbors, broken glass, and fear, and somehow make everyone breathe a little slower. You asked him once how he did it. He said, "I listen for the thing that doesn't match." You thought that sounded like something from a detective show. Then he made you clean the engine bay. Firefighters are like that. They will hand you wisdom, then immediately hand you a mop. You married Linda on a Saturday and worked a shift on Monday. She knew what she was getting. That is what you told yourself. To be fair, she did know some of it. She knew about nights. She knew about holidays. She knew dinner might be reheated enough times to become a different meal. She did not know about the way you would come home quiet after certain calls. Neither did you. Your son Mark was born during a thunderstorm. You were on duty when Linda went into labor. Engine 9 got you to the hospital faster than your own car ever could have. Moretti drove. He claimed it was because he cared about the baby. Really, he did not trust you behind the wheel while panicking. You made it with 20 minutes to spare. For the rest of his life, Mark heard that story and rolled his eyes like he had personally been inconvenienced by his own birth. You tried to be home. You did. But the job had a way of reaching through walls. The pager went off during pancakes, during homework, during one anniversary dinner where Linda had worn the blue dress you liked, and you came back smelling like wet carpet and electrical smoke. You missed Mark's first hit in Little League. You missed the second one, too. After that, he stopped telling you when games mattered. He would say, "It's just a game." He was 8. 8-year-olds should not have to protect adults from disappointment. You knew that then. You know it better now. Still, it was not all sadness and sirens. Do not let memory cheat. There were mornings at Station 9 when sunlight hit the bay floor and everyone was alive, and the coffee was almost drinkable. There were snowstorms where the whole crew ate chili out of paper bowls and argued about whether beans belonged in it. There were school visits where children asked if you slept in the truck. You told them only if the captain was boring. Moretti told you to stop helping. There were false alarms that made everyone complain, then secretly feel grateful. False alarms are annoying until you understand the alternative. There were ordinary rescues no newspaper cared about. A furnace shut down before carbon monoxide filled a house. A kitchen fire kept to one cabinet. A teenager pulled from a wreck before the rain got heavier. A father standing in a driveway whispering, "Thank you," so quietly you almost missed it. You learned not to miss quiet things. That was Moretti's voice in your head. Listen for the thing that doesn't match. The call that changed you came on a cold March night in 1987. Not Christmas, not a holiday, not the kind of night a movie would choose. Just wet streets, hard wind, and a moon hidden behind low clouds. The address was 314 Maple Avenue. 2-story house, fire showing from the rear. Possible child inside. Those 3 words changed the weight of everything. Possible child inside. Men who had been joking 30 seconds earlier went quiet. The engine sounded different. Or maybe your blood did? When you arrived, the mother was on the lawn in bare feet. Bare feet in March. You remember that more clearly than the flames. She kept screaming, "Eddie's room is upstairs." Moretti grabbed your shoulder. "Donnelly, with me." You followed him through the front door with the line. Smoke had banked down low and thick, the kind that makes the whole house feel like it is holding its breath. You searched right. Moretti searched left. You hit a dresser with your knee, found a wall, found a doorway, called out. Nothing. Your mask made every breath sound borrowed. You remember thinking about Mark, not in a poetic way, not with music, just a sharp picture of him asleep with one sock off, because he never could keep both socks on. Then you heard something, not a cry, not a cough, a small clicking sound, plastic on wood, click, pause, click. You stopped. The radio cracked in your ear. Moretti shouted from somewhere behind the smoke. You shouted back, "Quiet." That was not proper radio discipline. You were young. Also, you were right. There it was again. Click. Near the closet. You crawled toward it, sweeping with one hand. Your glove hit a toy. A little red fire truck, warm to the touch. Then a child's hand pulled it back. You found Eddie behind a laundry basket in the closet, curled so tight he seemed folded. His face was streaked black. His eyes were open. He was not crying. That scared you more. You said, "Hey, buddy, I'm Frank." You do not know why you used your first name. Maybe because Captain Donnelly did not exist yet. Maybe because a child hiding in smoke did not need a title. He whispered, "My truck." You said, "Bring it." That was the whole rescue plan for half a second. Bring it. Breathe. Move. You tucked him into your coat as much as you could and got low. The hallway had changed while you were in the room. Fire does that. It redecorates without permission. Moretti found you by your boot and cursed at you with great affection. Together you moved down the stairs. At the bottom, a window failed somewhere behind you. The house inhaled. You felt heat roll over your back like a hand pressing you down. Outside, the cold air hit so hard it hurt. Eddie's mother made a sound that split the night in two. You handed him off to the medics. He still had the truck in his fist. Its ladder had melted sideways. One wheel was gone. He would not let go of it. At the hospital, they said Eddie would live. People say that sentence too quickly. They should be required to sit down first. Back at Station 9, nobody made a speech. Firefighters are suspicious of speeches. Moretti put a mug of coffee in front of you. It tasted terrible. You drank the whole thing. Then he sat across from you and said, "You heard the toy." You nodded. He said, "Good. Don't get addicted to noise." That was all. The next morning you went home. Linda was in the kitchen packing Mark's lunch. She looked at your face and set the bread down. "Bad one?" you said. "He lived." She came around the table and put her arms around you. You did not cry, not then. You waited until the shower was running because men your age were trained to be ridiculous in very specific ways. 2 weeks later, Eddie's mother came to the station. She brought cookies, a thank you card, and the melted toy truck in a paper bag. She said Eddie wanted you to have it. You said, "He should keep it." She shook her head. He said it already did its job. No one at the station spoke for a while. Even Murphy, who could talk through a dental procedure, kept quiet. You put the truck in your locker. Later, Linda found a glass jar for it. "So it doesn't get lost," she said. You told her that was unnecessary. Then you kept it for 35 years. Marriage is mostly being known and pretending you are not. After Maple Avenue, you changed, not dramatically, not in a way people could point to. You just listened harder. for the cough behind a door, for the person who stopped answering, for the neighbor saying, "I think someone lives upstairs," while everyone else looked at the flames. You listened at home too, though not always well. You heard Mark's bedroom door close a little harder when you missed things. You heard Linda stop asking if you would be home on time. You heard yourself say, "Next time," so often the word started to feel cheap. One night Mark was 12, and you missed his science fair. Not a volcano this time. A bridge made of popsicle sticks. It held 42 pounds. He told you the number like he was reporting weather. You said, "That's great, buddy." He said, "It broke after." You said, "That's what bridges do when you ask too much." He looked at you for a long moment. Then he said, "Yeah." You still think about that, because sometimes children tell the truth by accident, and adults spend 20 years trying to answer it. Mark grew up careful. He became the kind of man who checks the expiration date on salad dressing and owns a level in 3 sizes. He married a woman named Rachel. They had Leo. You watched Mark become a father and saw, with some discomfort, that he was better at staying in the room than you had been. That hurt. It also made you proud. Both things can sit at the same table, even if they do not enjoy each other. Years passed. You made lieutenant, then captain. Your hair went gray under the helmet. Your knees began keeping records. Moretti retired, then got sick, then died on a Tuesday morning when the sky was offensively blue. You hated that. Some days deserve weather. On your last year, the job was more medical calls than fires. People complained about that. You did not. If fire prevention works, firefighters spend more time helping people who fell in bathrooms. That is not a failure. That is civilization doing one thing right. Your last shift came in October. The crew tried to act normal and failed. There was cake in the fridge with your name on it, hidden badly behind a gallon of milk. You pretended not to see it. Around 8:30 that night, the radio sent Engine 9 to a smoke investigation. Nothing much. A burnt outlet in a duplex. You checked the walls, cut the power, talked to a young father who was trying not to look scared in front of his kids. You told him, "You did the right thing calling." He said, "I didn't want to bother you." You looked at the black mark above the outlet. This is exactly the kind of bother we like. Back in the engine, the radio crackled. Engine 9, dispatch. You reached for the mic. Engine 9, the dispatcher paused. Then he said, "Captain Donnelly, this is Eddie Parks on dispatch. My mom says to tell you she still has the card you sent." Your hand froze. The crew went silent. The road noise seemed to drop away. Eddie Parks, Maple Avenue, the toy truck, the closet, the clicking sound. You said, "Eddie?" He laughed softly over the radio. "Yes, sir. I figured I should be on the other end for your last one." You looked out the windshield at the wet street shining under the lights. For once, you had no useful sentence. Eddie said, "Engine 9, return to quarters. And Captain, thanks for listening." Nobody in the engine looked at you. That was kind of them. Firefighters can be decent when absolutely necessary. At the station, they gave you the cake. They made speeches despite your warnings. Someone had found an old photo of you with black hair and a mustache that should have required a permit. Mark came. Linda came. Leo was not born yet. Mark stood beside the engine, hands in his pockets, looking at the truck like it had been a second parent he was not sure he liked. Later, while everyone else ate cake, he said, "That dispatcher, that was the kid." You nodded. Mark looked at you. "You never told me the whole thing." You said, "I didn't know how." He looked down at his shoes. "Yeah, I know that feeling." That was not forgiveness, not exactly, but it was a door opening. You had learned to respect doors. Retirement was quiet in a way you had wanted for decades, and did not know how to enjoy. No tones, no boots by the bed, no radio, no kitchen table full of firefighters arguing about chili. Linda liked having you home, then discovered home. You came with opinions. You reorganized the garage twice. You labeled the breaker panel in handwriting so neat it looked angry. You checked smoke alarms in other people's houses without being asked. At Thanksgiving, Rachel caught you standing on a chair in her hallway. She said, "Frank," you said, "this battery expires in March." She said, "The turkey expires in 20 minutes. You got down. Mostly because Linda was watching. When Linda died, the house got too big. People say a house feels empty after someone dies. They are wrong. It feels full of places where they almost are. Her coffee mug by the sink. Her reading glasses in the drawer. Her voice in your head saying, "Battery, Frank," every time something chirps. Leo started sleeping over more after that. Mark said it was to keep you company. Leo said it was because your pancakes were better. Both of them were lying kindly. You let them. Now Leo stands in your garage at 2:31 in the morning, looking at the melted toy truck in the jar. He says, "So the truck saved him." You think about that. "It helped me find him. Because it made noise. Because I heard it." He nods like this is a technical distinction worth respecting. Then he asks, "Were you scared?" You could say no. There was a time you would have. That time did not make you better. It just made you harder to know. You say, "Every smart firefighter is scared." Leo frowns. Then why go in? You put the jar back on the bench. Outside, the neighborhood is dark and ordinary. The kind of ordinary people only get because somebody answers when ordinary breaks. You say, because scared doesn't mean stop. It means pay attention. He thinks about this. Then he says, "Dad says you missed a lot of stuff." There it is. Children do not always know when they are holding a knife by the blade. You take a breath. He's right. Leo looks surprised. Maybe he expected you to defend yourself. You have defended yourself enough for one lifetime. You say, "I miss things I should have been there for." But you saved people. Yes. So was it fair? You almost laugh. Not because it is funny. Because 9-year-olds can walk straight into the question adults spend years decorating. No, you say. Not always. He waits. You add. But it was real. The next afternoon, Mark comes to pick him up. Leo runs outside with his backpack, leaving you and Mark in the kitchen. Mark notices the new battery wrapper on the counter. Alarm chirped? At 2:14, he smiles a little. Of course it did. You both stand there. Two men with too many unsaid things and not enough practice. Finally, Mark says, "Leo told me about Eddie." You nod. He looks toward the garage. "I used to hate that jar." You did not know that. He says, "I thought it got a place in the house because you were proud of missing ours." That lands hard. You grip the edge of the counter. Mark keeps going before you can apologize too quickly. "I get it more now. Not all the way, but more." You say, "I am sorry, Mark." He nods. "I know." 2 words. Not everything. Enough for that afternoon. You do not hug. Donnelly men can survive fires, surgeries, funerals, and tax audits, but a kitchen hug requires scheduling. Still, when he leaves, he squeezes your shoulder. That counts. That night, Leo calls you from home. He says he has a question for school. "What should I say you did?" You say, "I was a firefighter." No, like what did you do? You sit in Linda's old chair. The house is quiet. Too quiet, but not as sharp as it used to be. You look toward the garage wall, through which you cannot see the jar but know exactly where it sits. You think about Moretti's voice. Check twice. Close the door behind you. Panic is contagious, so don't start it. You think about Eddie's small hand pulling the truck back. You think about Mark's bridge holding 42 pounds before it broke. You think about Linda saving a jar because she knew what you would need before you did. You say, "Tell them I listened for people who couldn't make much noise." Leo is quiet for a second. That's weird. Most true things are. Can I say you ran into fires? If you must. Can I say you were brave? You rub your thumb over the arm of the chair. Say I was scared and went anyway. He likes that. You can hear it. Children breathe differently when they have found a sentence they can carry. Later, after the call ends, a siren passes somewhere far off. Your shoulders rise. They always do. Then they settle. You're not going. Not anymore. You walk to the hallway and look at the smoke alarm. Green light. Quiet. Working. You check the lock. You check the stove. You turn off the garage light. For a moment you stand beside the workbench. The melted truck sits in its jar, ugly and perfect. You tap the lid once with your finger. Good job, you say. Then you go back inside. In the bedroom, your slippers wait beside the bed. You turn them slightly, toes toward the door. Not because you think the alarm will ring, because some part of you still believes readiness is a kind of prayer. Outside, the street stays dark. Somewhere in the city, another crew is awake. Someone is listening to the radio. Someone is checking a door. Someone is telling a frightened person, "I'm here." And because of that, you sleep.